Welcome back to LCS Academy. Today I'm so excited. We're going to be doing a huge transformation. Right now she just has her natural brown hair with some highlights. It's not light enough for her, so she's looking for something along the lines of this. So let's get into it. First thing I'm going to do is section out the front. Today we're going to be doing a full teasy light. I'm not going to be leaving too much in between because the back combing of these teasy lights is going to give me that dimension that I am looking for. So I'm just going to start off by sectioning out the front and just focus on the back for now. I am keeping this sectioning pretty simple. I am just going to be going up more horizontal. So I'm going to start my tease kind of midway down because I do want to get a pretty good blend. I am also going to be mindful of those previous highlights, and I'm going to try to kick out anything that was already previous lightened because she was really nervous of breakage since she's had it in the past. So we're just going to be really mindful with what she already has going on and just make sure we're saturating all of that brown really well. Basically what she wants to achieve is something a lot brighter with a lot more blonde, but can still be very lived in. She does like low maintenance. She does get grays, so she is looking for something that's just easy to keep blending out as it grows out. Whenever I'm doing a big transformation like this, I always like to give my clients the options of what it looks like when they're coming back for touch-ups. With this specific transformation that we are doing, because we're doing such like as much blonding as possible in this first session to get where she wants to be, moving forward it's going to be a lot easier. So I like to tell people what services we offer, whether that's just a toner refresh. We also offer a face frame appointment, just a few different options for them so that they know what it looks like moving forward. And it's also nice to have those appointments for yourself too, for those in between, like if they don't like to get it done super often, but it does get them coming back in your chair just for those little services. And then you know they're always taken care of and they're kind of maintaining that blonde that you're trying to achieve. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going up the back in horizontal sections. At this point I'm splitting it into two just because the section does start to get a little bit wider. You want to make sure that your hair isn't falling out of each side of the foil. So if you don't want to split it into two separate sections, you can get those really big extra wide foils, which I do use sometimes. I actually do love those. I just didn't have those at this point, so I was just using these ones. So I'm just splitting it into two sections, moving up the head just in a horizontal section until I reach the top. Here is just a different angle of what her hair looks like so you can see it a little better. The highlights were pretty fine, but they were pretty sporadic throughout as well. So just kind of moving around that can be tricky sometimes, especially if they are too fine. Sometimes it's just really hard and to not overlap it. So you just want to try to kick them out as best as possible. But she does have a lot more brown in throughout the middle of her hair. I found that the blonde was a lot more underneath around the hairline, and also like kind of sporadically throughout the top as well. So this is just a different angle, and you can see kind of how I'm back combing and kind of what I'm going over. If it's like too warm of a blonde, you have to go over it because it's going to reflect even more warm if the blonde gets exactly where you want it to be, especially if you want to make it a cooler blonde. Those are contrasting tones, so the warmth is going to actually make it look a lot more orange than it might even be. So anything that's too warm of a blonde, I always just go over. I always start with a 10 volume, as I've said in all my other videos. Low and slow and gentle is honestly the best way to go. So this is what the back looks like when it's all done. You're going to have your three sections laying on top, and then we're just going to move to the sides. On the sides, I'm going to do all horizontal again. I did just a couple baby lights on the hairline just to make it all blended so there were no dark spots. But for the actual sides, I'm just going to go up the same way I did horizontal and just do those mid teasy lights just to keep it nice and bright around the face. Now for the detailing around the front, I'm going to be taking really fine baby lights and doing some back-to-back baby lights here. I want to keep it really soft but still really bright. So I'm just going to be doing a few back-to-back here before I transition back into some teasy lights. I want to be able to control the root around the face, especially because the inspo picture I feel like definitely had a little bit more brightness up at the front. Although her haircut is pretty similar, she does have some shorter pieces. She is still growing out a little bit at the front, so I'm just going to be making it really soft. I'm so sorry, my camera died, so I'm not able to show you what everything looked like with all of the foils in, but you basically just continue all the way back up until you meet that last foil in the back section. After I finish foiling, I always check the back section just to make sure everything's processing good. Sometimes you need to rinse earlier than you think, so that's why I like to start at the back. But yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully next time I have my backup battery ready. Anyways, this is probably the scariest part from what it looks like, but her hair felt so amazing and she actually got so light. Like, I was so impressed with how light she got because she was really worried that she wouldn't really see much brightness. I feel like that's sort of been what's happening. She's been going in for her appointments and just not seeing really a change in color. So I was really excited about this. She had absolutely no breakage. And I know when you're looking at hair being sort of like scrunched up like this, like wet with lightener, it always looks so scary. But honestly, if you're gentle with it, it's fine. Your hair is at its weakest point when it's wet, so you do have to be mindful of that. A little tip, if you have trouble brushing out your back combing, when you're doing your first shampoo, just don't wet the back combing and start from the bottom up, and it really does help brush it out a lot easier. I also like to go in after my first shampoo to get all the lightener out. I like to go in with actual conditioner. And so basically I wring the hair out as best as I can, and then I put conditioner all the way through the ends and the top, and I find that it just creates this nice buffer for when I'm going to tone, but also it really helps the brush out process, which is great. And here it is all brushed out, so you can see the dimension that I was talking about through where the roots are, through down the middle, and then underneath you can definitely see the dimension because of the back combing. So it's really important to know how far down your tease goes so that you can determine how much depth you want to keep. The root is a little bit smaller than the one in the photo, but I did explain to her maintenance wise it might be best to keep it a little higher, and I can control it a little bit more with the toner. And look, absolutely no breakage. We love to see that. So yeah, as I said, I can control the root with the toner, so that's going to give it that overall look in the photo. Now for one of the best parts, we're going to start toning her. So what I mixed for her root was I just did half 5N and half 6N. I'm just going to start at the back in really small sections and apply the root color. I want to do this first because I do want to let it sit as long as possible. The one thing with teasy lights to look out for, and this is what I find with a lot of newer stylists because it can be a little scary, I'm going to break this down for you and show you exactly what I mean. The easiest way to look at this is in zones. So zone 1, you have the root, zone 2 is where the blonde starts, and zone 3 is the ends. So when you break this down, you want to make sure that you're starting the root at zone 1, bringing it down through zone 2 so you're blending that out, and then doing your secondary toner on your ends. For her end toner, I ended up just mixing a couple different things just because she still was showing a little bit of warmth. I did a little bit of 9N, some 10N, and 1013. I didn't want to completely eliminate all of the warmth. She wanted it just a little bit more creamy, so it'll just help kind of neutralize it while still keeping it on the brighter side. So although it definitely turned out a bit lighter than the photo she showed me, she definitely really liked it. It's going to give her a lot of time to grow it out, so she won't have to feel like she has to come in and get it touched up unless she wants a toner or face frame appointment. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and if there's any video that you would love to see, just let me know and I would love to try to help you guys out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.